Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world of rugby. My name is Hendrik Fourie for the 15 Rugby podcast. And in today's episode from Johannesburg, we're going to talk about the World Junior Rugby Championship or the World Cup. And we're going to talk about the Nations Championship that kicked off this past weekend. And specifically, we're going to talk about the match between the Springboks and England. Let's get started. All right, first up, we've got the Junior World Cup that started about a bit more than a week ago. And as you might know, there are four pools, each with four teams, and we've had our second round of matches this past Tuesday. Just to run through the results quickly, in Group A, we had Wales beating Uruguay 47-0. In Group D, we had France beating Spain 57-32. Unsurprisingly, in Group C, we had Argentina beating Ireland 62-40, which was quite a bit of a surprise given the large score there. In Group D, we had Australia beating Fiji 53-17, not surprisingly. And in Group C again, we had England just dismantling the USA 68-40. In Group B, we had New Zealand scoring 36 against Scotland's 26, which came as a little bit of a surprise because it seems like Scotland is having maybe a mini resurgence in the rugby, both junior and senior teams. And while New Zealand isn't looking like the championship team that they used to be, and in the other Group A match, we had South Africa beating Georgia 33-5, which I must say flatters South Africa a little bit. They were always in charge of the match, but Georgia had a great match, I will say that, and really came to the party and proved themselves. I would say the score does it makes South Africa look a little bit better than they were. And in the last Group B match, we had Italy beating Japan 41-25. And I'll say the same thing about Japan, is that there seems to be quite a serious improvement in their rugby, both in senior and junior levels, which is great. Now, for the round three matches coming up this week, we've got Ireland versus the USA, New Zealand versus Italy, which basically is a decider for who's going to win that group. Then we've got Argentina, England, and that's the same. Whoever wins that match will win the group. We've got Scotland, Japan, South Africa, and Wales. They also, both teams are undefeated so far, so the winner takes all there. France versus Australia, same thing. The winner will top the group. Then we've got Georgia, Uruguay, and Spain and Fiji. And for those of you who might not be 100% certain, each winner of the different pool groups will go through to the semi-final. There's no quarterfinals, so it's only the winner goes through to the semi-finals. The rest of the teams will play playoffs for different positions, but it's only the winner of each group that will play in the semi-finals, and then obviously the winner of those semi-finals will play in the finals. So that's going to make for a great last round action for this Junior World Cup coming up this week. Next up, we had the start of the Nations, or the so-called Nations Championship. For what it's worth, I don't think this tournament will last for many years to come. And the reason for that is that at the end of it, probably the Northern Hemisphere teams will probably look at it and feel that they would rather be in charge of their own schedules each year and not play the Southern Hemisphere teams as often, and also not all of them in one year. However, having said that, we had a great start to this so-called tournament with New Zealand beating France 34-32. Which was a really good match. It was an entertaining match to watch, some good attacking rugby, although I do feel that both teams lacked in terms of their defense and specifically their defensive structure, which was surprising given the shape of the French clubs at the moment that are really, really good. We had Japan beat Italy 2017, and that is probably, along with another match, the biggest upset of this first round. That we had Japan beating Italy comprehensively, and which would probably beg the question: is there a spot for Japan in a Six Nations tournament? Or maybe for the Six Nations tournament to look at some promotion relegation in terms of that, because if Japan is beating Italy, then maybe they need to be there. The third match we saw a really tough match against between Australia and Ireland, which Ireland pipped at the end 33-31. That was a really good match. Um, then fourth, we had Fiji losing against Wales 39-24, and I think Wales will feel happy about that since their previous match against the Barbarians wasn't convincing at all. And then fifthly, we had South Africa walloping the English side 45-21. I expected much more from the English side, and I'm sure so did all of the English supporters. I hope for English rugby's sake they will improve going forward in this tournament. And lastly, we had probably the upset in my view of the first round: Scotland beating Argentina 47-38 in Argentina, and that takes some doing. Scotland coming up against South Africa next week, so that'll really be a tough challenge for them. But more about that a little bit later. But I think Argentina will be looking back at this match and ask themselves how they got themselves in that position of losing against a Scottish side, which at times are brilliant and at times are below average. I just can't seem to sort of nail down whether Scotland is really good or just lucky during some matches. Nevertheless, it was a great win for Scotland over Argentina in Argentina. Then the next round, this coming weekend for the Nations Championship, we've got New Zealand versus Italy. That's the first match coming next Saturday, which should be sort of one-way traffic for New Zealand. We've got Australia France, which will be probably the most interesting match to watch. I'm sure France will want to bounce back against Australia and get a win under the belt. Japan versus Ireland. If Japan arrives and plays the kind of rugby that they played this past weekend, that's going to be an interesting match, although Ireland should take this match by at least 10 points. Fiji versus England is an interesting one because that's going to be played back in England, which I don't quite understand. Nevertheless, so England traveling back to England before they come back to play Argentina, and then we've got South Africa playing Scotland in Pretoria. I believe that's going to be quite a one-sided affair. I hope that Scotland arrives with some ammunition to counter South Africa, although I seriously doubt that. And then lastly, we will have Argentina versus Wales, and Wales definitely would want to build on the win from the previous weekend, but Argentina would definitely want to strike back after their loss against Scotland. So a great weekend of international rugby still lying ahead. And as I said, especially the Australia-France match, I think that's going to be one for the books. And most probably South Africa v Scotland will be another great match to watch. Right, and this gladly brings us to the result of the South Africa England game, and I know that there was a lot of social media hype around this match, and a lot of things said. So let's just quickly have a look at that. South Africa obviously winning that match 45-21 at a cold and fairly sold out Ellis Park. I know that there was quite a bit of talk about tickets and the price of tickets, and which I also had my 2 cents on. But nevertheless, at the end, there was about close to 53,000 in a 65,000 capacity stadium, which was wonderful for Ellis Park. The Springboks winning that match with 7 tries to 3, which was really good. And I think even from a Springbok supporter's opinion or point of view, it was a little bit surprising. Personally, I didn't expect us to win that far. I did expect us to win, but the Springboks really came out firing. And when the English team came back and clawed their way back just before halftime to make it 17-14, I think a lot of Springbok supporters were thinking back to that match last year against Australia when we were so far ahead, and Australia ended up beating us comprehensively. So, nevertheless, so well done to the Springboks with regards to that match against England. It was really well done. I think injury-wise, the biggest injury concern is Oxenche, who went off after 8 minutes. And as Rassi said in the post-match interview, it's a question of scans now to see what the extent of the injury is, and we wish Ox all the best and hope that he can make a timely return. Then Cheslin Colby seems to have taken over the kicking duties and slotted 5 out of 7 kicks, which was really wonderful. I think for Cheslin Colby to take up that role with such ease and comfort and be successful at it is really special. Cheslin Colby is a player in a generation, and I hope that he gets all the accolades that he deserves. As I said, England clawing their way back just before halftime, 17-14. That gave them some hope, but to be quite honest, once the second half started, it was one-way traffic. And From the Springboks' point of view, I will say that there was no one in particular that looked bad. All of the players looked really good. They played really hard. You can just see by their attitudes that they are absolutely committed, and that they've only got one goal before them, and that's to win and play good rugby. There's so many good players, or so many players had a good match yesterday, but I do want to mention Mani Libbok and Damian Willems. So those two guys were absolutely stellar. Uh, um, I'll just say this, in my point of view, Damian Willems should have received the Man of the Match award. Whether there was some kind of a communication mistake, who would know? But I think that most people who watched the match would feel that Damian Willems deserved the Man of the Match award. Regardless, Mani Libbok was as sharp as a knife. He made good decisions. I love the way he attacks at pace, and that brings something that very few other fly-offs bring from a South African point of view at the moment. So well done to Mani Libbok, and I think the fact that Cheslin Colby has taken over the kicking duties really relieves some pressure off of Mani Libbok's game, and it frees him up to play the kind of game that he enjoys playing, and that it just takes a lot of pressure off of him, and I think it's working. I think the experiment is working. Um, Cameron Hanekom came off early-ish. And I will just say this, that he played obviously in the flank position, moving into that spot after Sia Kolisi and Eben Etzebeth had late withdrawals from the team. So I can't fault Cameron Hanekom too much for not having the greatest match, because he had to play in a different role that he usually practices in and plays in. So I can understand that. I hope he gets another opportunity. Although I will say, probably that opened up the door for Evan Roos to get his run next week. And on that, I will say that I think that there are quite a few players who are on the fringe and knocking at the door, and will probably get a nod, and hopefully get a nod for the match against Scotland, even if it's coming off the bench. These are players like Ithanuka, Elrich Low, Evan Roos, Wilkulo, Dutukum Chunu, Horn. I think that they might get the nod to go and prove themselves, and maybe prove their fitness also for their match against Scotland. Scotland match is going to be interesting. It's played at altitude in Pretoria at Loftus Versfeld. It's going to be a tough one for Scotland, even though Scotland came out and beat Argentina comprehensively towards the end. They almost let it slip. I just don't think Scotland will have the firing, the ammunition to do what it takes to beat the Springboks in Pretoria. I think it's going to be a one-sided affair. But overall, I think the Springboks are feeling good after this match against England, which is obviously part of the matches leading up to the All Blacks incoming tour, which is for sure South Africa's main goal, to win that this year. And hopefully by then we would have sorted out our lock injuries, because that's a bit of a problem at the moment. I think we all understand that. But nevertheless, well done to the Springboks, and all the best for this coming match against Scotland next week. We're sure that it will go well, and as always, we're standing behind the Springboks, win or lose, no matter what. And when the teams get announced later this week, we can maybe have another chat about that and see what to expect. From myself, Hendrik Fourie, in a sunny yet chilly Johannesburg. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend and a week leading up to some good rugby next week. Cheers.